2025 starts in just a few days. Are you ready? In this episode, I want to help you wrap up 2024 and head into 2025 light, free, and ready to crush the year. I'm going to be talking through 4 things I'm focusing on as we leave this year and head into the next. And no, this isn't a New Year's resolution episode or a goal-setting episode. My name is Kerry and welcome to the Print on Demand Playbook Podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Excited to have you here with me as we kind of wrap up this year. This is actually our last episode for the year, and I'm coming to you solo. Adrian is enjoying some holiday time with the family, and I'm actually recording this just before the week of Christmas. So when you're listening to this, you've probably already experienced the holidays with your family. And so I want to tell you, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, and I want to wish you a Happy New Year. It's been a great year. It's been an awesome year for us here at the podcast, for me personally, and I can speak for Adrian. I think it's been a good year for him as well. But man, I'm excited for 2025. And today I really just wanted to spend a few minutes with you and talk through how I'm wrapping up 2024 and kind of what's on my mind going into 2025. And what you're going to get from this episode is you're going to get a lot of really practical things you can do to help you frame 2024 in the right way and help you get ready for 2025 to have a huge year. And I'm really excited to share this because as I've been kind of going through all this, this has just been a lot of stuff that I've kind of been learning lately, different books I've been reading, podcasts I've been listening to, and kind of that's where I came up with this episode. But it's been a lot of things that are not around setting goals. It's not around New Year's resolutions. It's about cleaning up this year, wrapping up this year, and kind of heading in with a fresh slate and how I'm viewing the next year. And it's been some really big shifts for me in my mind. And I think it's really going to help you. Some of this is very like practical, like go do these things. And some of it's more just the way you're thinking about things. And so really excited to share it with you. And I also just want to say thank you for an incredible 2024 from the podcast, from the Print on Demand Playbook. We love our listeners. We just want to thank you for hanging out with us and listening with us. We love it if you left a review. Let us know what you think of the podcast. If you've been listening for a while, we always love hearing from you. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. I'm at Kerry Egler. You can always say, hey, I'd love to hear from you. But I just want to tell you, thank you so much. It's been an awesome year for us. So let's jump into the podcast episode today. Let's jump into the content. So I'm going to be talking through 4 things. These are mainly like action steps, I guess, things that you can do both practically, but also just, again, kind of the way you're thinking about things. It really is a little bit of a mindset shift. So let's jump into the first one that I have here. The first kind of action step I have as you leave 2024 to get ready for 2025, it's to close out 2024. Close out 2024. So here's the thing. I think it's important to go into the new year with a clean slate. You'll feel fresh, light, you'll feel ready to go. You won't have any baggage. If you carry things from 2024 into 2025 that are old and dragging you down, you're kind of just continuing the previous year. You're going to continue to feel the way you felt maybe at the end of this year. If you're feeling that baggage from 2024, I know I'm feeling a little bit of that. If you're feeling all the things that you've been dealing with throughout the year, you don't want to carry that into 2025. You want to close out the year and you just want to start fresh in 2025, right? So this is kind of a simple thing, but what I'm doing at the end of this year is I'm cleaning my cars. I'm taking my car to the car wash. I'm taking my wife's car to the car wash. I'm getting them clean because I want to start 2025 with a clean car when I get in my car each day. I'm cleaning up my desk, right? I'm wiping it down. I'm getting right now you can't see it, but there's some clutter. I'm recording this in 2024. So I'm going to clean up my desk. I'm going to clean everything off. I might organize a little bit, label a few things, but I'm going to clean up my desk. On the digital side, I'm going to answer emails that I've been needing to answer for a while. I'm going to tie up loose ends in my email inbox and delete things that I don't need so that I can start 2025 off completely clean. Another simple thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clean up my closet at home. I'm going to go through and get rid of clothes that I haven't worn in a while or older things. I'm going to organize my closet. I'm going to get it just kind of clean for 2025. So when I wake up every morning and come home from work and I have to go into that closet, change my clothes or put down my stuff, it's going to be clean and it's going to feel good, right? And the point of this is just I want to leave 2024 behind and start 2025 fresh, clean, light, no baggage, the things that have been dragging me down a little bit, these little things. I want to get rid of those so I don't have to think about them. I don't have to worry about them. So you might have other things in your life. I know there's probably other things for me. Another thing would be like your phone, right? Maybe you go in and clear out apps that you haven't been using in a while, that you don't use at all. Clear out the apps, clear out your text messages or whatever. There might be things in your life though that weren't on this list that you think, man, I'd like to just leave that behind in 2024. And I would encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to donate things that you don't need, get rid of clutter, things like that. This is a good action step as you leave this year, just to go into 2025 really fresh and light and feeling good. Okay, the second part, this is the bigger part of kind of closing out 2024, is around how you think about this year that you've had. And what I want to start by talking about this and talking about this is when you think about your last year. So when you look at 2024 from just kind of high level, you might have this kind of overall feeling about how the year went. You can think about this from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint, whatever, spiritual standpoint. I mean, lots of different ways, right? But what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about 2024 and how it went for you? I know that if I look at 2024 and I just go, how was this year? It didn't feel like that great of a year, to be honest. It's kind of just like, well, it might have been a little bit meh. It might have been a little bit, I don't know. When we look at it, if I look at it from revenue in my business, it was a good year. It wasn't my best year of revenue. When I just look at the overall, like, did I grow? How did I grow? If I just quickly kind of assess that, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I grew. If I just look at it from that really high level, like just what's the first thing that comes to mind? For me, I don't know that it was that great, right? And you might feel that same way. You might feel like it was an awesome year, and that's amazing. But I want to encourage you to think about your year in a different way. And I've been doing this. I actually sat down, mainly what I'm going to share here. I sat down 2 nights ago, I believe it was 2 nights ago with my wife, and I went through a bunch of questions I'm going to share with you. And oh my goodness, it helped me. I left looking at 2024 in such a different way, so appreciative for this year and how great it was. And so that's what I want to share with you. And it's this concept called the gap and the gain. Okay. The gap and the gain. Now, some of you might be familiar with this, but I learned this concept in a book that I've read in the past, but also been just going back to reading, and I'll explain why in a minute. But it's this book called 10X is Better Than 2X. 10X is Better Than 2X. It's by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And they actually have a whole book called The Gap and the Gain, but they talk about this concept inside 10X is Better Than 2X. So first of all, highly recommend that you read 10X is Better Than 2X. Great book. But I have not read The Gap and the Gain yet, which is a different book. Would encourage you to go check that out. But they talk about this concept of the gap and the gain inside the 10X book. And this is where I learned it by reading about it in there. There's probably 10, 20 pages on the gap and the gain. So I want to go read the other book because this has fundamentally changed my life, just this one concept inside this book. But essentially what it is the gap and the gain it's a way of measuring yourself in a healthy way and really recognizing how far you've come. And so let me talk about the gap first, and then we'll talk about the gain. So when you live in the gap, you're constantly measuring yourself against your goals, and most times against other ideals that are kind of outside of yourself, such as comparing yourself to others who might perceive you might perceive as ahead of where you are, or that they have something you don't have. So I think a lot of times we do this subconsciously. We also recognize that other people are doing it, but it's this kind of concept of what am I missing? Why am I not further along? Why can he or she do it, but not me? Essentially, living in the gap is always focusing on what you're missing and why you're not meeting expectations, right? So it's just like it sounds. There's a gap, and you're judging yourself, and you're getting down on yourself. You might be feeling a little bit depressed, be feeling down because you're not further along. You don't have what Sally has. You don't have what Joe has, right? The people in your life that you might be seeing, you're like, man, they're flourishing so much. Why do I not have what they have? And essentially, you're measuring yourself against outside ideals outside of yourself. And this is called living in the gap. And it can be really, really unhealthy because you're always reaching for something that you can't quite get. In the book, they talk about it's like looking at a moving horizon out there, and you're running towards the horizon, but it's always moving, and you can't ever get there. Right? It's that never ending kind of goal that's out in front of you that you just can't attain. And when you're living in this gap, it can be very unhealthy because you're always missing something. There's always a gap. On the other side, living in the gain is measuring yourself only against yourself. It's looking backwards at yourself and recognizing how far you've come. Where were you a year ago, 3 years, or 5 years ago? When you measure yourself this way, you're able to see your progress, you appreciate the journey, and you're not comparing yourself to anyone except yourself. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So as I wrap up 2024, I sat down with my wife a couple days ago, and we actually asked a number of questions to each other that we got from this book, 10x is easier than 2x. 10x is easier than 2x. Yeah, I think I said that wrong earlier. It's 10x is easier than 2x, not better. I said better earlier. 10x is easier than 2x. So these questions came out of the book, and we talked through these questions, and it helped me frame 2024 in a healthy way. It helped me see how amazing this year was. And as I mentioned earlier, I was previously feeling like 2024 was kind of a meh year. It was kind of like, what did we accomplish? What did we do? How did I grow? I was just kind of like, I don't know, right? But the questions that we got from this book, um, they start with a big timeline. You start by kind of assessing a large timeline, and then the timeline gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm going to share these questions with you, but it's really interesting as you get down to some of these questions that assess the past 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days, how you have to really think hard through what you accomplished in these smaller time periods, and it really, really makes you appreciate how far you've come in just this year time or even less. And so I want to share these with you. These questions are not really, they weren't meant to assess your year necessarily, but I found it so helpful as my wife and I were talking through 2024 and wrapping up this year, and really just looking at, okay, like, what did we accomplish in 2024? Where are we headed in 2025? I found it helpful for this. So just want you to know these questions weren't necessarily made for this purpose of like, looking at your year necessarily. They're for the purpose of assessing your growth and as you look at how can you get closer to where you want to be in the next year, kind of assessing that. But they were so helpful for me in wrapping up 2024. So I want to share this with you. The first question: how have you grown as a person over the past 3 years? How have you grown as a person over the past 3 years? Second question: what are the biggest things you've learned in the past 12 months? Okay. Third question: what are 10 important things you've accomplished in the past 12 months? That's the first one where it got really difficult. It got really difficult for my wife and I to kind of answer that. What are 10 important things you've accomplished in the past 12 months? I mean, we really had to think it through, but we spent a little bit of time. We didn't just jump to the next question. We spent a little bit of time thinking, okay, what have we really accomplished? And it was pretty amazing the stuff that we'd come up with. The next question: what meaningful experiences have you had in the past 90 days? So we just went from 12 months to 90 days. This was so incredible. As these timelines started getting shorter, this one asked about meaningful experiences. And my wife and I started thinking about the last 90 days, and she had named, she went on a Las Vegas trip with her friends. She went to Nashville with another set of her friends. We went on a family trip to Seattle. We went on a couples trip down to Dallas. There was like all these experiences. And then outside of that, there was just other little experiences that we had, plays and musicals that our kids had done, and sports games and different things that we could go back on. I had the chance to go to a Seattle Seahawks game with my son and my older brother. That was so meaningful. Oh my gosh, that was just a really cool experience for me. It was my son's first NFL game. So we started thinking about these things, and it was like, wow, just in the past 90 days, we've had so much to be thankful for and so much meaningful experiences. Couple more. In what ways has your, I'm sorry, one more. I said that. I went in the wrong order here. Here we go. So, how are you clearer on your goals and vision than you were 90 days ago? Again, short timeline. How are you clearer on your goals and vision than you were 90 days ago? The next one, in what ways is your life different and better than it was 30 days ago? This really stretches your brain. It really does. Think through that. In what ways is your life different and better than it was 30 days ago? Next, what important progress have you made in the past 7 days? 7, crazy. What progress have you made in the past 24 hours? That one was really hard, right? We had started thinking about, well, what progress have we made in the last 24 hours? And you start to recognize these small things when you're doing the 7 days, the 30 days, the 90 days, and the 24 hours. You recognize these small things and you go, for me, when I was answering this question, I was going, okay, well, I made a really good decision on what I ate for breakfast. Instead of eating a donut, I ate eggs or something, like I had a protein shake or whatever. So you start thinking about those things. You're like, well, I went and worked out. Okay, that was a good decision. I got really good sleep. That was good, right? That's progress towards who I want to be. I woke up at the right time. You start recognizing those things that are very, very small, but they are progress that you're making to get towards your goal. You might say in the last 24 hours, you might say, oh man, I had a really good conversation with my son that was really meaningful to me just in the last 24 hours. You might think about those things. So this was incredibly helpful. The timeline gets shorter and you really have to think about what could I possibly have gained in the last 24 hours, 7 days. I left this conversation with my wife answering these questions. This took us a couple hours, feeling so appreciative of 2024, all the fun that I had, the moments I shared, the memories I made, the progress I made. It was really, really awesome. Like I'm getting chills talking about it right now because I just felt like before we did this, I felt like this year kind of was like, it was okay. It wasn't like the greatest year. It wasn't a bad year. It was just a good year. But then I went through this with my wife and I felt like, wow, 2024 was incredible. We made so many memories. We did so much awesome things. Our kids did so many awesome things. We shared so many moments as a couple. It was really, really, it just left us me really, really grateful. And so I really encourage you to do this. I think it's really helpful. So that's my point number one. Close out 2024. Reflect. Think about all the amazing stuff you did in 2024. Measure yourself against yourself only. Live in that gain instead of the gap, right? And clean up your cars, your closet, those kind of things as you head into 2025. You'll feel light, free, and fresh. All right, number two, trim the fat and focus on less. Trim the fat and focus on less. So at the end of every year, I do this pretty much every year. I look at all the things I'm doing from a business and personal standpoint and see what I can trim down. This helps me go into the next year with a fresh vision for what I'm focusing on moving forward. Okay. So I want you to ask what isn't producing fruit in your business and personal life. Cut it out. Cut it, right? This can be very, very scary and can be a little bit stressful. There's a lot of things we hold on to that are not producing fruit in our life or in our business. You can look at specifically your business. And sometimes it's really hard to let go of these things, but when you do let go, you see exponential growth so quickly, right? So there might be employees in your business that you need to let go of or that you could replace with software or technology. There might be employees that are just dragging down the business and you feel like they're doing a job, so you can't let them go. But actually, when you let them go, you see the growth go through the roof, right? Are there areas of your business you can clean up, refresh, or eliminate? There might be products that you might need to get rid of. There might be processes that you need to get rid of or processes that you need to clean up or make simpler. So simplify, cut down, trim things. And I want to share an example. This is kind of a personal example, but also related to business. One example I have in my own life that I've been actually doing probably about the past month, I've been doing this. It has to do with my phone. So my phone, right? I'm sure like many of you, I get addicted to my phone, right? Social media, looking at Twitter X. I'm looking at that all the time. Watching videos on YouTube. That's probably my number one. I just watch a ton of videos on YouTube. Think like personal interests, hobbies, those kind of things. sports, those kind of things. I spend so much time on my phone, right? And so what I've been doing is I've been just leaving my phone at home or leaving it in my glove box in the car all day while I'm at work. Now, I know that might seem a little bit scary. You might have kids like I do. You might have things you're responsible for. I understand. And I know not everybody probably can do this, but I have an Apple Watch. Okay. I have an Apple Watch. And the purpose of my Apple Watch mainly is so that I don't have to be on my phone. And so I got an Apple Watch a few months ago. I've had them off and on throughout the years, but I got this Apple Watch and I connected it to cellular on my plan because I wanted to be on my phone less. And I need my watch because I need to know if my son and daughter's school calls. I need to know if my wife needs me for an emergency, something like that. But this allows me to get rid of my phone because I have my watch on me. I can respond to text messages and different things. So I did this for a full week. And it was pretty wild what I experienced. So the first 2 days, I left my phone at home, and that was great, except I ran into a few issues where I needed to just have my phone near me. So I ended up the last 5 days of the week, when I came to work or when I was doing things, I just left my phone in my glove box in my car. This was really, really interesting. The biggest thing that I got from this, which is what I hope to get from this, was that when I was at work, I was like super focused in on my work. So I was accomplishing and getting done way more than I got done before when my phone was here. Because when my phone's here, I'm just like picking it up. And my phone's here right now as I'm saying, get rid of your phone. My phone is here. It's on Do Not Disturb. But I'm picking it up like every 5-10 minutes, looking at something. And then I find myself off in a rabbit hole looking at Instagram instead of working on what I need to work on. So if I just remove my phone and leave it in my car or leave it at home, then I was like fully focused in on my work. I was getting way more done. It was awesome. It was great. Right. Another thing that was interesting is I did not allow myself to like listen to podcasts or anything like that in the car. So I just had my phone in the glove box, but I was not allowed to get it out. So this forced me to sit as I drove in my car with my own thoughts. And that was pretty incredible. I got to pray more, right? Because I just had all this time. It's like, I'm just going to pray, man. I'm going to talk to God. I got to think about my family, my business, and really like, instead of just zoning out listening to a podcast, which is great, like you can get a lot from podcasts, right? I listen to self-improvement, business podcasts, marketing podcasts. So I get a lot from them, but I was able to just think about things, assess things, and it was awesome. I felt more creative. I felt free, right? And I just felt like it was interesting because I every few minutes I'm kind of like looking around for something to play with, even as I'm driving. But like I'm safer. I'm not touching my phone while I'm driving. I'm not. I'm like just sitting with my thoughts, and I just found this to be really healthy. To not just like anytime you have free time to just zone out on a screen, but to actually just sit and think. And another thing that I got from this, I started reading more. I'm not really a huge reader, but anytime I read, I get a ton from it. And so by using some of that time, instead of zoning out on social media, I had nothing to do, right? I could either just think or I could read a book. Started reading books. Like it was crazy. So this is a great example of trimming the fat, focusing on less, and this like just freed me up, right? So I just start trimming things in your life, in your personal life, and in your business. Sometimes it's scary because you feel like you need those things. If you can identify 2 or 3 things that you can trim from your business, your personal life, it's gonna open up. It's gonna open up some massive growth for you. And the second part of this is going to allow you to focus on less. You're going to be focused on less. So you're going to be able to give more energy and more attention to the things that matter to your growth. So try your best to have one main thing, big thing, probably in your business to focus on this next year. You've heard the quotes. I'm going to share a few variations of the same quote because I just think they're awesome. But energy flows where attention goes, right? From Tony Robbins. What you pay attention to expands. What you water grows. Focus is the key to unlocking growth. Attention is the beginning of devotion. I love that one. Attention is the beginning of devotion. Whatever you feed will flourish. So I want to encourage you, give your attention to the right things and to less things, and you will see exponential growth. Can't say enough. All right, let's move on to number 3. So the first thing you've done, cleaning up, closing out your 2024. Number 2, you trimming the fat from 2024 and lowering the amount of things that you are focusing on. Number 3, I want you to plan out your next year. I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions. I'm not talking about setting goals. I'm talking about taking control of your time and your attention in 2024. This is very practical, but man, this is very helpful. I am really excited about doing this for 2025. Plan out your next year. This is one of my favorite things I'm doing this year. The reality is we all have a lot of people and activities trying to get our time and attention. They're vying for our time and attention, whether that's, employees, business things, Zoom calls. I mean, just there's a lot, right? So this is a way that we can take control of our time. And it's simple. Plan out your next year right now before the year even starts. When we do this, we get to focus on the things that we want to focus on, and we don't let others control our time, right? So what I'm doing is I'm sitting down with my team in my business. I've actually already done this part. I sat down with my assistant in my business, and I'm also sitting down with my wife. We have not done this yet at the time of recording this, but all that we're doing is we are just putting things on the calendar for 2025. So I've already done this on the business side, but I'm doing this in my personal life. We're just sticking things on the calendar, trips, different things, right? So like business events, product launches, business trips, meetings you might need to have. Then on the personal side, family trips, days off, date nights, kids events. Just put them on the calendar. Just put them on the calendar. Okay. Now, when it comes to things like date nights or days off, right? Just decide, just pick a day, just put them on there. Find something that works for you. The goal here is not to get everything perfect. It's not that you put a trip on there and it's like, that's exactly when you're going to go on that trip. It's just you want to put something there, put a placeholder there, right? So that if you need to move it a little bit, that's fine, but put something there. The goal is not to get everything perfect. It's to put it on your calendar, even if it's not set in stone, so that you take control of your time and you don't let others control your time. This also gives you milestones and rewards to look forward to. For instance, if you know you have a trip coming up in 3 months, you're going to focus in on your work knowing you'll be rewarded soon. I don't know if you ever noticed this. I'm sure that you have. I notice it. If I have like a trip coming up or I have some kind of like reward coming up that I know is on the calendar, I work way harder to hit my goal, my timelines, my deadlines, and I get a lot more work done because I know I've just got to get to that date where I get rewarded with this cool trip or whatever. So when it's on the calendar, you expect it, you can see it, like you can visually see these dates. This thing is coming, and you'll work harder knowing that that reward is coming. So build in rewards such as maybe it's bonuses. You're going to give yourself a bonus, days off, trips, gifts to yourself to motivate you, right? These are all things you can put in the calendar. You can say, hey, if I accomplish this thing by this date, I'm going to give myself $1,000 bonus. If you can do that. I know not everybody can do that, but it might be as simple as like, I'm going to go reward myself with a nice meal, maybe somewhere that you love to eat. I'm going to reward myself with a day off, right? I know that day off is coming. I've been working hard. That weekend off, like it's coming. I'm going to reward myself, right? Plan that into your calendar for your next year. Put it on the calendar. You might say the second weekend in February, I'm taking it off. The first week in March, I'm taking it off, right? Put those on your calendar, build those in so you can look forward to them and you'll be more productive. The fourth thing for this podcast episode, as we kind of wrap it up, is also related to kind of what I just talked about. The fourth thing is make time for you. Make time for you. One of the best things I did in 2024 was I made time for me. It sounds selfish at first, but there's a quote you may have heard. It goes something like, when you prioritize yourself, you show up better for everyone else. When you prioritize yourself, you show up better for everyone else. Another kind of version of that says you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So an example of this for me, 2024 was the first entire year where I didn't work on Fridays. My kids were at school most of the time on Fridays, obviously with the exception of the summer. So I got to have like breakfast dates with my wife, even some lunch dates. We played pickleball with a group of friends almost every Friday at noon. And oftentimes I got to sleep in. And here's what's cool. Here's what's the fruit of having that Friday off was going into the weekend with my kids on Saturday and Sunday. I was filled up. I was ready to play. I was ready to go to their sports games. I was ready to be social with our friends, go to church and be social. I was full because Friday was for me. And Friday set me up to be full going into the weekend. And so I want to encourage you, it doesn't have to be Fridays off, but I want to encourage you to build in time for yourself. This could be like an hour per day. For instance, if you go in the morning at 9 a.m., right, and you get off at 5 p.m. or whatever, maybe the last hour of the day before you go home to your family from 4 to 5, it's just you time. You can watch YouTube. You can zone out if you want to zone out. You get a workout in. You can do whatever you want, right? Do whatever you can think of. Something for you, not work, nothing, not for others, for you. What do you want to do? You might just drink a nice cup of coffee or Coke Zero, right? And just that's the way. You can read a book, something like that. You can knit, whatever you like to do. Play a game, right? Game. Build in, or maybe it's after your kids go to bed. Maybe it's at the end of the night. It's an hour for you. Maybe it's a weekend off to yourself or a day off every, once a month. What if you spent one day a month that was just for you? I mean, for real, think about that. What would it do for you? This is in that same vein of number 3. What would it do for you if you just had one day on the calendar per month? There's 30 or 31 days in a month. What if you had one day on the calendar that was just for you? Not for your kids, not for your wife or your husband, not for your employees, not for your friends. No, just for you. Do whatever you want. Go shopping. You can sleep. You can read. Do whatever you want. Play video games. One day a month, right? I challenge you in 2025 to build in time for yourself. Build in time for yourself and see how you show up for others. You'll show up better in your business and you'll show up better for the ones you love. So, to wrap up this episode, I want to encourage you. These are the 4 things that I'm doing as I leave 2024, heading into 2025. Number 1, close out 2024. I want you to leave 2024 in the past. We can remember the good things, but let's leave this year clean, clear, feeling free, light, and fresh, moving into 2025. Number 2, trim the fat and focus on less. Trim out anything that's dragging you down from 2024. Don't bring it into 2025. Assess your business and personal life. See what things you can cut back on or remove, and focus on one main thing in 2025. Energy flows where attention goes. Attention is the beginning of devotion. I love that. Number 3, plan out your next year. I want you to sit down with your colleagues. Maybe you have a team that you manage. Maybe you report to a manager. Sit down with your manager. Maybe you own a business and you have a assistant or a team that you work with. I want you to sit down in your business or work and personal life and put things on the calendar for 2025. Okay. And number 4, in 2025, I want you to make time for you. Could be an hour a day. It could be one day per month. It could be a weekend or a week every quarter. Make time for yourself to do the things that you love. I want to thank you so much again for a wonderful 2024. It's been an amazing year. And again, my perspective, it's just over the last 2 weeks, I'm going to remember 2024 as an incredible year because of the way that I framed it. I want to just thank you for being a part of my journey. And I can also speak for Adrian, being a part of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast journey in 2024. I know we're looking forward to another huge year in 2025, a lot of growth, a lot of new ideas, new episodes. So I want to thank you so much for being a part of it. And the next time you hear from me, it will be 2025. So enjoy the new year. Enjoy some time off with your family. I want you to take some of that time, reflect. We'll talk to you very, very soon.